Yo. Story real quick. I'm gonna tell y'all a story real quick when I was, which I really don't talk about stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? Because it's jail talk and it's like something that I'm way beyond. You know what I mean? But you know, I figured why not? You know what I mean? Since the topic's being brought up, because I was in a predicament. You know what I mean? Where I had to go to the PC, you know what I mean, protective custody, when I was locked up. You know what I'm saying? Because I went from population, general population. I went from general population. This was back in like 2011 or something like that. You know what I mean? But I went from general population, right? Which I was cool. I should have just stayed over in general population. You know what I mean? And I don't know, this is a little topic to talk about, you know what I'm saying? So I was basically, all right, what happened? All right, this is what happened. So I was over in the general population with everybody, right? Like a lot of people that I knew was over. A lot of people that I grew up with and stuff, they was over there. One of my brother-in-laws or whatever, I call him. You know what I mean? Kendall Cook, he cut hair. He was over there. You know what I mean? So I should have never left general population. You know what I'm saying? But in order for you to get out the cell, and stuff, you have to they got this other program, right? They got another program where you can get out the cell. You don't have to see in general population. It's boring. You know what I'm saying? All you got over there is people just busting on each other, and you know what I mean? People fighting, you know, and just like you basically sit in your cell for 23 hours a day. You know what I'm saying? You sit in your cell for 23 hours a day, right? And that's boring. You get out for an hour. You know what I mean? So that's boring as I don't know what. So, you know, I was like, well, I'm gonna go to the other dorm, because the lady came in and she was like, well, here, you know, you got an opportunity if you want to go over to the other dorm, over to the other pod, like A pod, B pod, C pod, or whatever. If you want to go over to the other pod, they got classroom stuff where you can work and you can learn stuff, and you know what I mean, and all this stuff. They had different programs in there. You know what I mean? That would actually speed up your day. You know what I'm saying? So that you wouldn't be doing nothing the whole day. You know what I mean? As me, I wanted to be productive with my day. You know what I'm saying? So I went over there. You know, I went over there, and I was over there for a while. And then there was a couple people over there that I knew, that I actually grew up with. You know what I'm saying? But the one bull, I see, he was always with this white girl. You know what I mean? I seen him over there, and he you know, he started talking to me and stuff or whatever. And the other bull, they was over there shooting dice and playing cards and stuff, and I was playing cards with him and stuff. You know, but I didn't know the bull was like that. You know what I mean? I didn't know the bull was fruity. You know what I'm saying? Until me and him got in the cell together. You know what I'm saying? And then he, you know what I mean? He was like being weird and shit, and asked me, you know what I mean, questions and shit. So, you know, I'm like, you know, I didn't think of nothing like that. I'm like, oh man, I grew up with him, and I know him. I used to always see him. He used to always be with, like, you know what I mean, this white girl. Then he was with another white girl. You know what I'm saying? So he was always he always had a girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? And then I remember him back in the day, you know, when him and another dude got into it or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I was telling him about that. I was like, yeah, man, I remember. You know what I mean? When y'all got into it or whatever. You know, and we were just talking for a couple minutes, but I didn't think, like I said, I didn't think nothing of it. You know what I mean? I was just like, oh, that's somebody I grew up with. But the bull was, you know what I mean? The bull was, I don't know if I can say that on here, but the bull was fruity. You know what I mean? So basically, I was in the cell. You know what I mean? They put us in the cell together. So. And then during the daytime, you know, everything was cool. You know what I'm saying? He come back in the cell. he come back in his cell, and I was back there. You know what I mean? And he was like, we was talking for a couple minutes, and then the bull was like, can I, you know what, your thing. That's what he asked me. He asked me if he could, you know what I mean, suck my, you know what, bro. And I felt violated, bro. You know what I mean? Like, as a man, bro, I felt violated, bro. I was like, man, you tripping, bro. We two grown men. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, man, I ain't, bro. I grew up with you. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I didn't grow up with him, but he was around the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Where we lived at on Briggs Street and stuff like that. He'd be around the neighborhood. So I was a little young buck, you know, and I was a kid. But, you know, make a long story short, he, you know what I mean, he was basically like, you know what I mean, trying to ask me to, you know what I mean, suck my thing. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, bro, that made me feel awkward, and it made me feel awkward, and I felt violated. You know what I'm saying? I felt violated as a man, bro. I felt violated as a man. You know what I mean? So I was like, man, look, I'm not finna be in no cell with you. You know what I mean? You tripping. You know, so I called the CEO. You know what I mean? I was like, man, CEO, I was like, man, let me get up out of here. Can I go back to population? You know what I'm saying? Because I came over here, you know what I mean, because of I came over here because, you know, y'all got the programs going on, and I'm trying to get out, be out the cell. I'm not trying to be sitting in the cell 23 hours a day. Over in population, you only get to come out for an hour and walk around and stuff and chit chat with different, you know what I mean, at different cells and stuff like I used to do. I used to go around talking to different doors and stuff, and they'd call me over, you know what I mean, while they was in they cell. Like, the one side would be in their cell, and then they would let the other people out. So I'd go over and talk to a couple people I knew, you know. But so I was like, I asked the CEO, I was like, man, can you you know what I mean, can you let me can I go back to the regular population where I was just at? I'm not trying to be in this cell. You know what I'm saying? Or he was like, or can you, I asked him, I said, well, can you move me to a different cell? You know what I'm saying? He was like, no, we don't have no other cells, da 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 da. He was like, I was like, well, can I go back to classification? You know what I'm saying? So that I was like, can I go back to classification? You know what I'm saying? Because I said, I'm not finna be sleeping with one eye open, you know what I'm saying? Or sleeping standing up, or, you know what I mean? I'm not even finna be going to sleep here. And I got up out of there, you know what I mean? That same day I got up out of there. But this was the humiliating part about it, you know what I'm saying? Which I did not care, you know what I mean? I didn't care because this was the humiliating part about it. That he told me, he said, well, you only got one option. He said, you can either go to PC, which that's protective custody. He was like, you can either go to PC, and you have to go to PC in order to go to classifications. You know what I'm saying? So then you go back and get reclassified, and then when you get reclassified, then you can go back to regular general population, you know what I mean, where everybody was at, where I knew everybody, like Kendall and all of them was over there, you know what I mean. Kendall, he cut hair and stuff, you know what I mean. So I knew everybody over there, which I shouldn't have never left, because I was just trying to, you know what I mean, I was just trying to educate myself more, read more books. You know, they had classes, stuff that you can take, you know what I mean, and I like participating and stuff like that, you know what I mean, so that I can not waste my day, you know what I'm saying. So, you know, so they basically, the CEO humiliated me and was like, well, the only option you can do is go to PC. And I was like, well, guess what? I'm not sleeping in that cell, you know what I'm saying? Because I won't even be able to sleep. Like, I can't, you know what I mean? I'm not finna be, you know what I mean? I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? The bull, and I know the bull can, you know what I mean? The bull can fight, you know what I mean? I can fight too, but that's the thing, you know what I mean? It would have, you know what I mean? I would have had to really hurt him, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, I know he can scrap a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So, but, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I was trying to avoid that, you know what I mean? I got up out of there, you know what I mean? I got up out of there, and there ain't nothing wrong with that, you know what I mean? But the humiliating part about it is that, you know what I'm saying? The humiliating part about it is that they made me they made me go to PC. You know what I'm saying? They made me go to PC, and I figured I'd bring this up, you know what I mean, because everybody's talking about that, you know what I'm saying? So they made me go to PC, which I said no problem, I'll go. You know what I mean? I'll go to PC because, like, I'm not afraid, you know what I mean? I'm not afraid to go back to population. But the whole thing was, they didn't, in order for you to get back, the guy said, in order for you to get back over to the population, you got to go to PC. Then from PC, you got to go back and get reclassified. And if anybody been in that county jail, they know that you get classified when you first come in the door. So when you first come in the door, you get classified. You classify you whatever pod you want to go to. If you want to go to open population, if you want to go to the learning dorm, which I went to, was the second place I went to. But my first option I went to when I first went there was I went to general population with everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what the guard made me do. You know what I mean? That's what the CO made me do. He said, and it was humiliating because, you know what I mean, you know what people are going to think. You know, like, oh, he's scared. You know what I mean? He's scared. He's this. You know what I mean? He's that. And nah, it wasn't like that. You know what I'm saying? So nobody never asked me. You know what I mean? People just assumed, but they never actually asked me. You know what I'm saying? So I never even talked about it. But you know what I'm saying? The fact that they basically humiliated me, you know what I'm saying, by making me go to PC to get reclassified, from reclassification back to where Kendall and all of them was at, you know what I mean, the dorm, general population, where everybody was at that I knew, you know what I'm saying. So and like I said, I wasn't trying to stay in that cell because the bull was fruity, you know what I mean, excuse my language, but the bull was, you know what I mean, weirdo. And I didn't know that, bro. That was just somebody that you know what I mean, I always seen him with girls and stuff, you know what I'm saying. Like, bro, I love females, you know what I mean. I'm like, bro, I love females, bro, you know what I'm saying. Like, yeah, they get on my nerves, they're annoying or whatever sometimes, but bro, I love females, you know what I mean. So me going that route, that ain't something that, you know what I mean, God would, you know what I mean, that ain't something that God would appreciate, you know what I mean. And I know that, I always knew that's weird, that ain't right, you know what I mean. I couldn't even see myself doing nothing like that, you know what I mean. That's just straight out weird, bro. Like, you gotta be thrown off in the mind, bro. Something really gotta be wrong with you, or maybe something, you know what I mean, something really gotta be wrong with you to be like that, you know. And that's just my opinion, you know what I'm saying, because like it's too many women out here to be, you know what I'm saying, to be like that, you know. So something really has to be wrong upstairs, you know what I mean, for somebody to go that route, bro. Like, they real freaky, kinky type of stuff, bro, you know what I'm saying. And nah, bro, I'm not doing that, you know what I'm saying. No, that's weird, bro. And you know what I mean, like, even if nobody wasn't watching or nothing like that, bro, no, you know what I'm saying. Man, you crazy, bro. You know, and I knew that, and I knew the bull, you know what I mean. I know he could thump a little bit, you know what I'm saying, but I knew that if it really come down to it, bro, you know what I mean, I'm coming up out of there, bro. You know what I'm saying? Without a doubt. You know what I mean? So I ain't, you know what I mean, I ain't, you know, I ain't trying to be tough or nothing like that, but I'm just saying, bro. You know what I mean? Bro, you know what I mean? My mind, bro, when my mind click for real, bro, you know what I mean? I'm not having it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not having it, bro. I'm a beast for real, bro. But I'm, you know what I mean? I'm humbled. You know what I mean? I'm very humble, bro. I'm very humble. God humbled me, you know what I mean? And you know, humbled me early, bro. So that's why I'm the way I am. You know what I mean? I'm humble, bro. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to be like that. I don't want to, and it's not that I'm a punk or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? I just try to live every day right by respecting people, you know what I mean, and living right, bro. That's it. You know what I mean? But that was a situation in my life, bro, where it was definitely humiliating, you know what I'm saying? Because now I got I was just over there in general population chilling with everybody. And then, you know, I go from there to over to the learning place, and you know what I mean? I went over to the learning place to try to, you know what I mean, get some books and keep myself occupied, bro. Keep myself occupied and learn and get out, you know what I mean? Get out and just, you know, mingle with, you know, the teachers that were in there, you know what I mean? They was teaching us, and, you know what I mean? That's what I went over there for. You know what I'm saying? And then, like I said, but then when you end up getting going to a different pod, and then you get you got to take your mattress and all that stuff with you, you know what I mean? And you got to take all that stuff with you, you know what I mean? And then you get into a different cell with a different person, you know what I'm saying? And when you get into a different cell, you don't know who it is, you know what I'm saying? So it's all kind of weirdos, you know what I mean? But so then you go from there. When you get in there, you don't know who that is. You don't know, you know what I mean? But that was somebody that I actually, you know what I mean, knew a little bit growing up, you know what I'm saying? And the boy was freaky, you know what I mean? Weirdo. So, you know, and like I said, that was a humiliation. That was me being humiliated, you know what I mean? Because all that I had to go through just to get back to where I was at from the door, which I should have never left. You know what I mean? I should have just was like, if I wanted more books, I should have just, you know, got to sign one of those things where you get a whole bunch of books. You know what I'm saying? They come in there. I think you can only get like 3 or 4 books or something like that a day or whatever. But which I wouldn't have read it all one day. You know what I'm saying? But I would have kept the books for at least a week or something. You know what I mean? But that was crazy. You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah, I didn't know the bull swung like that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know he swung like that, bro. You know, and that threw me off guard. You know what I'm saying? So when I thought he was home, I thought he was cool. You know what I mean? Cool people's like he was cool people's, but I ain't, you know what I mean? I ain't know he was gonna, you know, try me like that. You know what I'm saying? And I felt violated, bro. You know, and we didn't get to fighting or nothing, but you know what I'm saying? I just told him as a man, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, we both men, man. That's weird. You know what I'm saying? That's some weird ass shit. That's some weird stuff. You know what I mean? I ain't with that, bro. I'm not with that kinky stuff. You know? And it was never because I was scared or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I went over there to get up out of the because they over in general population, they lock you down for 23 hours a day. And after a while, it gets to you being in there 23 hours a day, coming out for 1 hour, bro. You want to, you know what I mean? You want to come around. But in the other dorm, you're allowed to be out of your cell. You're allowed to be out playing cards with people, you know, playing dominoes, working out. You know what I mean? Right there, a couple people working out right there along the side of the wall. People was working out, you know what I mean? Jumping jacks and all that stuff, sit-ups, crunches. You know what I mean? So it was just a different thing. But you know what I mean? Then at nighttime, when it starts to get dark, you gotta go back to your cell. You know what I mean? And close down for like 10 hours, then they let you back out. You know what I mean? But in general population, they don't let you out. They let you out for 1 hour. You know what I mean? Other than that, you're stuck in that cell. You're stuck in the cell all day. You and your roommates in there pooping and peeing, and you got to sit in there and smell his poop, and he got to smell your poop all day. You know what I'm saying? So that's not, you know. But you know, that's a true story. You know what I'm saying? That's a true story. Like no BS. You know what I mean? No cap. That's a real story. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't want people thinking that, you know what I mean, I was scared to be, you know what I'm saying? Since this is being brought up, I seen it on the internet a little bit earlier. So, and I figured, you know what I mean, why not? Because I ain't tripping about it. I ain't got nothing to hide, you know what I'm saying? People can think what they want to think, but they was never there, you know what I mean? They was never there. They didn't know what I had to go through just to get reclassified. You know what I'm saying? Just to get reclassified back to where I was at. You know what I'm saying? And that was it. That's the story. That's the story of me going from general population to the learning dorm, from the learning dorm to PC, and then I was only in PC for maybe another month, and then, you know what I'm saying? I was like, well, I might as well just stay here because I'm only be another month and I'm out. You know what I mean? And that was it. I was like 20-something days and I was out of there. 23 days or something like that. You know? So, but yeah, that was it.